14-year-old Haley Mills was the world's most adored child star on the set of Disney's 1961 classic, The Parent Trap. However, she was a bother to her on-screen father, Brian Keith, whom he hardly put up with. Behind the scenes, a quiet and acrimonious conflict was taking place while viewers saw a touching family comedy. A tale of conflicting worlds, silent suffering, and the sinister side of a Disney fantasy. Mills would later admit that she detested him completely, and the startling reason why she created a poisonous environment that would follow her for decades. You must first comprehend the two very different worlds that were going to clash in order to comprehend the story of what transpired on the set of The Parent Trap. One was a realm of English country gardens, well-known parents, and Walt Disney's tender supervision. The other was a harsh reality of war, a world of broken households, and military discipline. Haley Mills, a little child, and Brian Keith, a man, embodied these two worlds. On April 18, 1946, Haley Catherine Rose Vivian Mills was literally born into the British acting elite. Her mother was the accomplished author and playwright Mary Haley Bell, and her father was the renowned Sir John Mills, a cornerstone of British cinema. Juliet, her older sister, was an actor as well. Haley grew up on a vast 400-acre dairy farm in the peaceful Sussex countryside rather than in the bustling city of London. It was a quiet and protected childhood. At the heart of the theatrical scene, surrounded by a devoted family, it was almost as if she had entered that realm by accident. Director Jay found her when she was just 12 years old. Lee Thompson when he went to see her father to talk about the upcoming movie Tiger Bay. Thompson noticed something unique about the young Haley as she played in the garden, even though the lead role was intended for a male. He modified the part for her because he was so impressed. Without even a screen test, she was cast. She made a huge impression with her portrayal in the 1959 crime drama. Everyone could see her innate skill, and she was awarded the British Academy Award for Most Promising Rookie. Haley returned to her life as a private boarding school student after the movie, but her performance had already caused a stir on the other side of the Atlantic. According to legend, Lillian, Walt Disney's wife, spotted Tiger Bay while seeking cover from the rain in London. Walt flew to London himself since she insisted that her spouse see this amazing young actress. At the upscale Dorchester Hotel, he met Haley and her parents. With hundreds of females trying out unsuccessfully, Disney was having trouble finding the lead for his next major movie, Pollyanna. He knew he had discovered his star when he met Haley. Again, without a single screen test, he signed her to a 5-year, 6-picture contract. Haley Mills rose to international fame almost immediately. She received the final Special Juvenile Academy Award for her performance in Pollyanna in the 1960s. And she was suddenly the Disney Studios' jewel in the crown. Haley found the studio to be a fantastic and secure workspace. She said there was a cozy, familial vibe to it. She believed that Walt Disney was a good man who would never consider taking advantage of his young performers. He was not just a manager. In her life, he served as a protector figure. He turned into a surrogate parent, as she put it. She lived in a bubble of pure perfection as a Disney princess, closely supervised and protected from the less sinister aspects of Hollywood. But a guy who had witnessed the worst the world has to offer was about to burst through that bubble. Brian Keith's early years were characterized by instability and tragedy, whilst Haley Mills was growing up in a world of affluence and protection. On November 14, 1921, he was born in Bayonne, New Jersey, into a family involved in the entertainment industry. His mother, Helena Shipman, was a theater performer, and his father, Robert Keith, was a performing actor. However, they did not lead a stable existence like the Mills family did. When he was only 2 years old, he appeared in his first movie after his parents separated when he was very young. His stepmother, Peg Entwistle, was a Broadway performer for a short time. After their marriage to his father failed, she tragically committed herself by jumping from the H of the well-known Hollywood sign in 1932. Although Brian's childhood was anything like the glitzy Hollywood ideal, at the age of 19, he had the event that would forever change his life. Brian Keith entered a recruitment office and enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps in the summer of 1941, months before the U.S. would ever start World War II. He didn't require persuasion or a sales pitch. He was ordered to boot camp at Paris Island following the Pearl Harbor assault. In a Douglas SPD dauntless dive bomber, he performed the hazardous duties of a radio man and tail gunner in the back cockpit of a two-man aircraft. He flew risky bombing sorties against the Japanese stronghold of Rabaul and witnessed a great deal of battle in the South Pacific. He flew into what the Marines grimly referred to as the Valley of Death, a dangerous area of the sky. He received the Air Medal, a decoration for valiant achievement in flight, in recognition of his service and bravery. He brought those experiences with him when he returned from the war. He began the family business of acting, but he wasn't portraying lovable fathers or princes. Throughout his career, he portrayed hard-nosed villains, strong thugs, and rugged cowboys in several crime dramas and westerns. He had a reputation for being refreshingly direct and unafraid to voice his opinions, even to influential studio officials. He didn't develop his personality on a soundstage it was made in a warplane's cockpit. He was blunt and unyielding, and wasn't very patient with bullshit. He was a Marine at heart, and he was going to enter the immaculately maintained set of a Walt Disney film, directly in front of its most valuable star. Disney magic was meant to be present on the set of The Parent Trap, 1961. The romantic comedy was a massive production that depended solely on the charisma of its youthful lead, but it took a tremendous amount of emotional pressure and technical skill for that miracle to work, which all fell directly on a 14-year-old girl's shoulders. It was a setting that required perseverance and excellence. Brian Keith, a man whose entire professional style was the complete antithesis of what was required, entered this delicate realm. Hayley Mills was devastated by the instantaneous crash. In The Parent Trap, Hayley Mills was more than just an actor. She was the film itself. The audience's belief that she was actually two distinct individuals, identical twins named Susan and Sharon, was essential to the plot. She came under scrutiny because of the method the video was made and the fact that she had to carry it at the age of 14. For its time, the production was a technical marvel. It was among the earliest films to heavily utilize a technique known as the sodium vapor process, an early form of green screen and a sophisticated split screen effect to combine two Haleys in a single frame. It was more than just cinematic magic. It was a laborious process that needed to be flawless. It was necessary to film certain scenes more than once. Susan Henning, a teenage actress who would never receive credit in the movie, would be Hayley's body double when she played one twin. Hayley would then refilm the same sequence, this time portraying the other twin, changing her entire demeanor, including her hair and clothes. The crew needed to be quite accurate. To give the actors precise instructions on where to stand, they even left footprints on the ground. The illusion would be destroyed if someone was even an inch off target, and they'd appear to vanish from the screen. Hayley had to learn 2 different American accents in addition to all of this technical pressure. One for Sharon from Boston, and another for Susan from California. It was extremely perplexing, she later acknowledged, particularly in sequences where one twin was posing as the other. At times, she wasn't even certain of the accent she should be employing. With all of this, a 14-year-old girl was working under extreme tension, in a part that even an experienced adult actor would have found difficult. She required her co-stars' understanding, tolerance, and support. She would receive nothing from one of them. With the same stoic efficiency he acquired in the Marines, Brian Keith worked on a movie set. He had little time for the sensitive procedure that others needed, and he considered acting as a job to be done. His approach was aptly explained by Kathy Garver, his co-star from the later television series Family Affair. According to her, Keith would arrive on location, glance at the scene, and then say, "Let's go," when other performers would spend hours studying their scripts. He favored spontaneity and improvisation over extensive rehearsal. The requirements of the Parent Trap production were directly at odds with this strategy. Due to the technological requirements of the movie, sequences had to be performed again in the same manner in order for the special effects to function. Improvisation was out of the question. Hayley had to give the exact same performance again. Getting it right frequently required completing several takes. This was a frustrating waste of time for a man like Keith. He was also renowned for expressing his emotions in a straightforward manner. He was very vocal about those he did not like, according to Kathy Garver. His opinions and frustration were not concealed. His portrayal of a tough, macho, and hard-nosed man on screen was a true reflection of who he was in real life. The slow, repetitive nature of recording intricate special effects and what he would have perceived as juvenile sensitivity were not allowed in his get-it-done attitude. Given the delicate and high-pressure situation surrounding his young co-star, his professional manner was the worst fit. It irritated his want to move on each time she required a second take or had to reset for a technical shot. Furthermore, he wasn't the type of man to harbor resentment. The Parent Trap's cheerful, cheery exterior belies a much darker reality. Audiences viewed Brian Keith as the kind, tough dad that any child would adore. However, he was a continual source of worry and tension for Hayley Mills. It wasn't a single heated argument or act of cruelty that made her despise him. It was terrible. The everyday experience of being made to feel small, unwanted, and useless by a powerful guy who didn't appear to care about a child's feelings was a silent, grinding battle of nerves. Rumors of a silent conflict between the two stars surfaced from the set years after the movie was finished. According to some rumors, Keith treated Hayley cruelly, referring to her as the Golden Goose in a scathing statement about her being Disney's favorite star. People claimed that he would interrupt her at table reads and roll his eyes when she asked for clarification on a line. Rumor had it that he openly made fun of her British accent in front of the staff, calling her manners ostentatious. A moment of intense wrath was the subject of the most dramatic story, a legend that was never verified but was rumored for years. This report claims that Keith stormed off the set when Hayley fumbled a line during a high-pressure sequence, slamming a chair to the ground and accusing her of disrupting the shoot's rhythm. However, the actual tale was possibly more harmful than any one outburst. The genuine wound resulted from the ongoing, everyday sense of exclusion. Being naturally introverted, Hayley Mills was already having a hard time adjusting to the enormous burden of her celebrity and the idealized portrayal that Disney had given her. As a young girl attempting to make her way in an adult world, she was rife with self-doubt. Keith's impatience and roughness were like salt on an open wound. The slights, the contemptuous gestures, the sense of being a bother. The way Brian Keith made Hayley Mills feel was the root of the issue. She would say it in the most straightforward and impactful way years later. She described him as challenging. I was clearly not welcome in his domain, and he made that apparent. She said that he was the one person she could not forgive in a letter that was allegedly found years after her memoirs was released. He made me feel insignificant, not because of what he did. This was the true cause of her emotions. He caused her to doubt her own value at the height of her fame, when she was the most well-known child actor in the world. When confronted by a frightening adult, many young people feel this way. For Hayley, however, it was taking place under the intense spotlight of the Hollywood lights. The fact that Keith wasn't a monster to everyone adds complexity to the tale. He showed a different side to his other co-stars. Actress Maureen O'Hara, who portrayed Hayley's mother in the movie, was renowned for being stern and feisty. She collaborated with Keith on 3 separate films and appreciated his tough personality, even choosing him by hand to play her opposite in The Deadly Companions. He was a professional peer to her. The actor Kathy Garver, who portrayed his niece on Family Affair, described him as a masculine, kind, and sympathetic man. What then was different about Hayley? It was a question of perspective and power. 39-year-old combat veteran Keith was accustomed to working with adults. At the age of 14, Hayley was accustomed to the protective, paternalistic atmosphere of the Disney studio. Keith didn't appear to change his conduct for his youthful co-star. He handled a helpless adolescent the same way he would any other performer on a gritty Western set. He didn't realize how hurtful his professional bluntness may be to a child. Hayley Mills perceived what Maureen O'Hara perceived as tough professionalism as a personal assault. He provided neither mentorship nor advice. Rather, he stood for all that frightened her about the grown-up Hollywood world. The haughtiness, impatience, and callous disregard for a young person's emotions. She loathed him because of that. It was he who gave her a sense of alienation. When the camera stopped rolling on The Parent Trap, the challenging experience didn't end. It had a profound effect on Brian Keith and Haley Mills, causing their careers to take unexpected turns. It strengthened Haley's resolve to reject the very persona that had catapulted her to fame. It was followed by a part that would reshape Brian's public persona and reveal a side of him that Haley was never able to glimpse. Even though their time together was brief, the effects would last for years. Haley Mills made a concerted attempt to shed her reputation as the innocent girl next door as soon as her contract with Disney ended. She sought out more difficult and mature roles since she felt so strongly on the set with Keith that she had to be youthful forever. She had been annoyed by the studio's strict supervision even throughout her Disney years. Because they thought the roles were too mature for her appearance, they had blocked her opportunities to star in more somber movies like Lolita and Exodus. She made a daring move in 1966 when she starred in the British movie The Family Way. Audiences who still perceived her as the naive kid from Pollyanna were stunned by the nude moment in the play, which marked a significant shift from her Disney performance. One could argue that this conduct is a direct response to her experiences. She no longer wanted to escape the scary adult world of filmmaking that Brian Keith represented. Rather, she sought to demonstrate that she was a serious actor who should not be minimized or disregarded. Even while her time on The Parent Trap was difficult, it strengthened her determination to mature and take charge of her own profession, permanently putting the Disney princess behind. Brian Keith became well known and established a public persona that was entirely different from what Haley Mills had gone through just a few years after The Parent Trap. He was chosen to play Uncle Bill Davis in the popular sitcom Family Affair in 1966. He portrayed a swinging bachelor in the drama whose life is completely upended when he is forced to take on the role of guardian for his 3 orphan nieces and nephew. Uncle Bill's personality combined a deep, underlying kindness with Keith's trademark gruffness. Audiences adored him because he was a rough person with a big heart. He became one of America's favorite TV fathers and received 3 Emmy nods for the role. In sharp contrast to the Tales from the Parent Trap set, his co-stars on that show recalled him as a caring and encouraging presence, particularly with the child performers. He had managed to transform his masculine demeanor into something loving and nurturing. This produced an odd irony. By portraying a loving father figure, the man who made a child star feel small and unwanted gained popularity. It demonstrated that Brian Keith was a much more nuanced individual than Haley Mills had recalled. He was capable of both intense warmth and rough intimidation. His life was characterized by both profound personal tragedy and professional accomplishment. He fought lung cancer and emphysema in his final years. At the age of 75, a devastated Brian Keith took his own life in 1997, only weeks after his own daughter sadly committed suicide. Few people knew the whole story of this complex man who was an adored TV uncle, a harsh rancher, and a distinguished Marine. They produced a timeless work of cinematic magic on screen, the ideal family in a tale that millions of people adore. Behind the scenes, that illusion was unable to conceal the actual clash between a pampered English rose from Disney's meticulously guarded land and a battle-hardened Marine from a world of harsh reality. The cause of the intense animosity was a silent, ongoing battle of nerves that created a lasting impression rather than a single altercation or dramatic outburst. It serves as a potent reminder that the most heartbreaking tales in Hollywood frequently conceal the most nuanced and relatable realities.